Hey guys, Emre99 here, and today I will show you guys how to effectively plan your season in career mode. Whether you start a new career or a new season with your team when you are in January 1st, it can be a little bit of pain to plan the season. So following these simple steps I'm about to show will not only be less tiring for you to plan the season, but also can be the difference between winning and losing during your objectives. Thanks to WorldDB, I started a stay with Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe on an early unreleased version of the WorldDB, which will be out very soon. With the new database, I thought it was the right time to make this video, so if you enjoy it, please drop a like and subscribe for more useful Pro Cycling Manager content. Now, let's begin the planning. So the first step is to decide what do you actually want to achieve during the season with your team. For example, for me, I want to win the Jro Italia with Primož Roglič. Also, I want to achieve good result in La Flèche Wallonne with Maxim van Gils, for example. So yeah, here, based on what you want to achieve in the season, first make your objectives. In calendar, you have your team calendar, in which WorldDB is actually based on the real life calendar of what your team has done the previous season, which is, I think, amazing. But if you want to make any adjustments through this calendar, especially for Conti and Pro Conti teams, if you have 3 races in a row, could be a struggle. But for World Tour team, I'm just happy with it, and you can just go for continents and countries and add races for your own important nations. For example, we have Red Bull as sponsor, so I want to add Tour of Austria, stuff like this. In my case, with Primož Roglič, I want to win the Giro d'Italia, which I look and I see Joao Almeida and Simon Yates as my main competitors. Next thing is to start assigning objectives. Now, this can be a difficult task, but this is how I do it. First, get a piece of blank paper or open an Excel or a Word sheet and try to categorize some of the objectives you have. In my case, as you can see, I've opened a tab with Giro d'Italia, Tour de France, Vuelta, Ardennes, Cobbles, the early season races and the late season races. Now I'm just going to fill this table with the squad, so it will make it much easier when I try to individually assign them one by one. While filling your riders in this table, I also advise you to look at the race profiles, which is actually very key. For example, I look at the Giro d'Italia and I see there's a 39-kilometer time trial that is hilly and then a 29-kilometer time trial. And then I look at the Tour de France, I see there's a team time trial. So I want to include more time trial riders in the Tour de France squad so that I achieve more success in this team time trial, for example. I also see a cobbled race in this Tour de France, so I also want to add some riders with cobbles to protect my leader. If you click on objectives, you can see actually what the other teams are planning for their season. So I can see in the Tour de France, Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard and Remco Evenepoel all targeting the Tour de France. Okay, quickly filling this table then, I now decided which riders are going to ride which Grand Tours, who are going to be the riders that I'm going to target Ardennes, Cobble Classics, and also a few riders that are going to focus on early season objectives and late season objectives such as in Lombardia. Obviously this is in your hands, but if you want some tips about this, well, Ardennes and Giro d'Italia are quite close, so I wouldn't really advise anyone to put both Ardennes and Giro d'Italia. For example, I put Roglič because I want him to race obviously the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but as a preparation for Giro d'Italia, so we'll come on to that later. And now time to put these objectives into the game system itself. So this objective screen and this overview screen gives us which rider will take which objectives during the season. Well, the first thing I would do is probably actually clean out everything. What I'll do is click all of the riders and delete all objectives for the selected riders. Yes, after clicking, the game will now erase all the objectives given to all riders. Now, this is a thing of choice. You might also want to leave those domestiques behind. For example, some guys like Maciejczuk, Anton Palzer, Hajek, Moscon, already some objectives given by the AI. But to be honest, we've already done a table and we've already assigned many of the riders some objectives. So now it's very simple. Go to Grand Tours, click Giro d'Italia and click the riders that you've selected for Giro d'Italia. For example, Roglič, Martinez, Hindley, Pellizzari. So if I click the Giro d'Italia and select my riders and click this one, add the selected riders as objectives for the riders, boom. Everyone now has Giro d'Italia assigned to their calendar. Now I'm going to do the same for Tour de France and also La Vuelta because I've already decided who to ride. This table is quite useful. It also gives you the attributes and it also sorts them from up to down. For example, I can look at the mountain and Primož Roglič have the best mountain, and then also try to plan my season around without making a table like I showed you in a piece of paper or in Excel. Now I've added the Grand Tours, now I come to the Classics. So for Classics, I've planned the Ardennes and the Cobbles, and obviously the Cobble team I selected was mostly the riders with high cobbles, also adding Kochen-Mullen, and if I click this one, boom, all of them now have Ronde and Paris-Roubaix as their objectives. Okay, you can say, okay, Ronde and Paris-Roubaix are different races, then you can manually select out a few. For example, Mick van Dijk only has 72 hills, so you say, okay, I don't want him at Ronde van Vlaanderen. With this quick adjustment, now all the riders in my calendar at least have some objectives which I've decided, and these are their primary objectives. But you can see, January, March is empty for a lot of people. Also June, July. So how do you tackle that? Well, here in the races tab, we also still have Paris-Nice, Tirreno Adriatico, Volta Ciclista Catalunya, Basque Country, and so forth. So for January and March, just click Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico and select few riders, 7 or 8 riders that want to target Paris-Nice, few riders that want to, take part in Tirreno Adriatico, and few in Volta Ciclista Catalunya. Again, since these are not primary objectives for me, I can just play along. For example, in Volta Catalunya, there's a 40k team time trial. For Tirreno, there is only one medium mountain stage, and for Paris-Nice, there is more mountainous route in our hands. And after that, it just becomes a clicking game. You also have classics to fill this January-March period. You can give your classics riders Classic Bruges de Pan, E3, Ghent-Wevelgem, Milano-San Remo, Strade Bianche, and many more. And there you go. In just under 5 minutes or 4 minutes, I've just filled it for January and March. April, May is already full for many riders, so I just go for a rider like Florian Lipovic, go to stage races as a climber, and as you can see, Itzuila Basque Country, Tour de Romandie, or a Critérium de Dauphiné, maybe not the best objective before Tour de France, but for example, a Tour de Romandie could be a good objective for him. And by that, just filling out the blanks. And in June-July period, it's also very nice to add Critérium de Dauphiné in Swiss for those riders who are not targeting Tour de France but are good climbers, and also the national championships is already a good option to add in this period. And in August, October, there's the Renevi Tour for the classics riders, there's Tour de Pologne for your hill riders, and then there's also a few classics in the end. If I scroll down, you can see Adax Cyclassics, Donostia San Sebastian, Breton, and Frankfurt. So you can just add these blanks without individually going to each rider page and scrolling down and everything. You can multiple add, and this is the easiest way to plan a whole season for the World Tour team. Okay, now I've done that. Is it over? Well, if you want to fine tune, you can also go, for example, for Primož Roglič, a very important leader of mine, Tirreno Adriatic an objective, and then there's a rest period, and then there's a peak for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Well, I don't want that, so I just click it again. Now it's a rest. I click again. Now it's no longer a fitness target, so he will try to prepare for Giro d'Italia while having Liège-Bastogne-Liège as an objective. Also for Giro d'Italia, I add a quick rest period. For Tour de France, and for Tour de France, I don't really want him to get his fitness peak too early, because you look at the parcours, the mountain stages start at 10th stage, so his fitness period, I want him to start during the race after Giro d'Italia. If you want to get really into detail, you can do this for every rider, but it's just the leaders that I actually, look about this. So for example, for Paris-Nice, I want him to maybe do both of these races, so I add this, and then a rest period here, and then a rest period here, and then for Grand Tours, I want him to start in the second week. You can also do this after January 1st, but the main important why we did that in January 1st is now we can go to squad, we can go to fitness and his pre-season. Unfortunately, this page was much better in the early editions where you could see which week is their first objective. But now we just have to manually look. Paris-Nice is in March, so I put medium on those people with March. For example, Alexander Hajek with Santos Tour Down Under, I put him high. I don't really want anyone at very high, because at January first week to have 90 is not too important. If you want someone to be in top shape for the January races, then I recommend very high. And also for low, I don't recommend that too much either. If you have someone with an objective starting very, very late, for me it might be Danny van Poppel with the classics in mind, then I can put him at low. I would just suggest normal for your best GC riders for the World Tour, so that they're in shape for Paris-Nice-Tirreno objectives, and then they can take a rest and focus on their Grand Tour objectives. Actually, that will be the main part of your objectives complete. Then we go back to squad. We have one more important here, which is the trainers. So first we go to staff, and I have 2 trainers with me, one traditional and one groundbreaking. Well, in the game, most of the riders that are young are going to either prefer groundbreaking and modern, while the riders who are a bit older will prefer traditional. If you're a World Tour team with a budget, I advise you to have all these 3 trainers, one from traditional, one from groundbreaking, and one from modern. And I'll go to squad, trainers, sort them out in style, and then make this quick adjustment. And for the guys you don't know, just sort them out by age. If they're very young, just click on groundbreaking. If they are 24, 25, I advise modern. And if someone's very old, I recommend traditional. As you can see, the riders who are older than 31 are all traditional. And also very important is the axis of training. Okay, for a new season, then you don't have to do it for your existing riders. But if you're starting a new career, there might be some interesting. For example, Primož Roglič assigned the default as Northern Classics. That's not how you want to approach the season, guys. So click on Primož Roglič and change the axis of training. Just quickly look at all the riders if they are right and make following changes. For example, Vlasov, again, I don't want him. Maybe I want him as a puncher. Okay, we've done a lot of work already. Now it's time to accept this and actually advance a bit throughout the season. Well, the game will already stop you in January too if you have R&D programs, and now it's time to look at other stuff we have to consider before simulating towards the season. If you have an under 23 team or want to open an under 23 team, you have to do it before February. And here also important for the axis of training of the riders in your team. And also training camps are important to improve your riders' fitness before races. So what you can do in here is a team time trial training camp, a Giro d'Italia recon, a Tour de France recon, a Vuelta recon, and a training camp to just generally up your fitness. I advise you to do a training camp for both pre-season and also for Tour de France. For example, Tour de France, you see these 3 stages. This is very key, guys. So you have to book a recon training camp already. And for the date, I recommend clicking Giro. But for us, the most important rider, Primož Roglič, is also riding the Giro. But I'm going to gamble on it a little bit. Since the Roglič is riding the Giro, I don't think I'll send him to both Dauphiné or Swiss. You should do this for also other Grand Tours, such as the Giro d'Italia. Look at the details of stages, for example, the time trial and a medium mountain stage. This could be quite cool. There's a nice 5-day period before Milano Sanremo and after Nice and Tirreno. But yeah, we've covered a lot of stuff to do at the start of the season. I know it's a bit of a pain for you guys, so I tried to make it more simple and effective for you guys. So now we're going to fast forward a couple of months and see how our riders are actually performing in their top objectives. Okay, I've simulated all the way to 9th of May for the start of the Giro d'Italia. And this is my roster looks like before the race. 99% on 5 riders, 98% on Sobrero, and 94 and 93% on Pitti and Van Poppel, and I'll tell you why. As you can see, Primož Roglič is 99% in fitness, but his fitness peak is not really at the maximum. Comparing to Giulio Pellizzari, which also had a great stat upgrade now up to 81 mountain at the age of 21, his fitness peak is closer to 100. The I button, you can see the training has 23.7 and races have 51.0. Meanwhile, for Primož Roglič, the training is 32.7, but the races just give him 3%. And that's because if you look at his calendar, he hasn't done any preparation race for the Giro d'Italia apart from one day in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And if you look at Giulio Pellizzari, the method worked because he did Tour of the Alps plus Tour of the Romandie, 2 races before the Giro d'Italia, and his fitness peak is much closer. And at the end of week 1, he will definitely hit his fitness peak and be at top shape at Giro d'Italia. So one thing we also know is that try to add few races, not objectives, but racing before the Giro d'Italia. I've just simulated the season. I haven't played the career mode. That's why I haven't looked into this. But just a tip for you guys, to make sure your GC leader raced before a Grand Tour, and just do not go completely empty or just one race before the month of Giro d'Italia. And if you look at two riders that are on a 93% and 94%, well, that's because both of these riders were handled with classics objectives. If you look at Laurens Pitty's preparation, you can see he had a lot of objectives during this March to April period, that when he took the rest, it's now just starting to get back to up to fitness for the Giro d'Italia. And same goes for Danny van Poppel, a lot of objectives between March and April, and he's just not able to get up to speed at the start of Giro d'Italia. Okay, one final thing I haven't talked about, and before this, is the facilities tab. Well, the facilities tab in the World DP, because they're very OP, they have been basically put on a bit of an expensive side. So if you want to add +2 uncouple attributes for your whole team for the season, then you have to spend 1 million euros, which I think I can understand. Like +2 cobblestone on the whole team, like that's absolutely incredible upgrade. And this way the AI team also can't do much upgrades in the game, because if it was cheap, like 100,000 euros, then every team would do it, and basically everyone would just have +2 attributes to it themselves. And generally, if you want to change obviously the price of these, if you don't agree with what the World DP has said about this, you can do in the database editor. In a DP editor, if you click Star Investment Cyclist, then you can find out the costs, and you can change the cost on however you want. And for example, with these inflated prices, I should say, just 12 people have used an investment cyclist on the AI teams: Ganna, Rodriguez, Starling, Gal, Carapaz, Gudu, Evenepoel, Lande, Van Wilder, Vingegaard with 2 upgrades, and also Matteo Jorgensen. But that is going to be it from me. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about planning and what you should do, be sure to join the PCM World Discord server or the World DB Discord server if you have any questions about the World DB. The World DB 2025 is going to be out very soon, so make sure to follow World DB on all social media platforms to be able to follow when the database is out. I hope you enjoy your careers and start new careers in the 2025 season for the best and most realistic career mode experience in Pro Cycling Manager. That was me, Emre99, showing you guys how I plan my season. Hope you've enjoyed it, and see you soon for the next video. Goodbye.